Hello, and welcome to Gay Men Going Deeper, a podcast by the Gay Men's Brotherhood that showcases raw and real conversations about personal development, mental health, and sexuality from an unapologetically gay perspective. I'm your host, Michael Diiorio, and joining me today are Matt Landsiedel and Reno Johnston. Today, we're talking about green flags in dating, and we're going to be exploring questions like, what green flags do you look for in dating, and why are they green flags for you? What green flags do you bring into dating? And how do you differentiate between a green flag and someone who just wants to make a good impression? What we want you to get out of today's episode is to find clarity and understanding in what your green flags are. We really want you guys to understand that there are lots of healthy, positive things in dating and green flags. We tend to spend a lot of time focusing on the negative, the red flags or yellow flags. And so we want today to be a bit more positive, upbeat, looking at the signs that say proceed, keep going. This is a good thing. So if you're new here, please subscribe to the channel on YouTube. And if you're listening on your favorite podcast platform, please subscribe and leave us a review, which will help us get into the ears of people who need us. All right, let's talk about green flags. So if you listen to the last episode we did on red flags, at the end, we said, hey guys, we should really do an episode on green flags. And so here we are, just like that. And, we think it's important that we flip the script because, as we said, sometimes we get really caught up in looking for warnings and caution and red flags and deal breakers when we're dating. But it is just as important, if not more so, I would say, that we recognize the positive signs that somebody could be a great match for us. So I'll just define green flags for us, for anyone who is not familiar with the term. Green flags are those behaviors and traits that show up or that show us that we're on the right track when we're dating somebody. Green means go. It means proceed, move forward. It tells us that we are connecting with someone who's compatible and aligned with our values. So what we're going to do today is very similar to what we did in the last episode. We're going to share our own personal green flags, what we look for in others and what we bring ourselves. And then we're going to share how we can tell if these signs are truly genuine or not. So let's dive in. The first question is, what green flags do you look for in dating and why are they green flags for you? And today we're going to start with Matt.
With me. So I like your preamble because that's exactly what what it was like for me. Um, Very easy last week or last episode to identify red flags for me. And I realized when I was looking for my green flags, all of my green flags are reference points from my red flags. And I really want to heal that. I think it's because I grew up with a lot of relational trauma. So I had a core belief from a young age that, the world's not safe, people aren't safe. So I was, while there was a part of me that was very, hyper vigilant to red flags, there was also a part of me that was quite desensitized to them. So then I would put myself in situations where I was exposed to a lot of red flags and being re-traumatized by them. So I think I've done a lot of work on myself to get to a point where I'm able to identify green flags. But I still have some work to do to like kind of really extrapolate them apart from each other and be able just to kind of start dating by looking for green flags and recognizing them in people. The first one that I resonated with the most was kindness. I think that one for me is it's such an energetic thing because I think sometimes people can like act kind, but like an energetic of kindness is like just like you can see it in somebody's eyes too, like the way that they have kind eyes. There's a kindness about them. Their actions match their words in a big way. So that's definitely a big one for me. Emotional availability is one that I'm really, really seeking right now. Um, I've done a lot of work on myself. I have a deep, deep capacity to be emotionally available and to communicate and share my feelings and these sorts of things. So I'm really looking for that, and that accompanies like this whole notion of emotional availability. It's like kind of like an umbrella of like things like being vulnerable, having intimacy, being a strong communicator about your emotions. And for me, that's not just like Like it's an essential. Like I absolutely need it because I'm demisexual. And for those of you who don't know what demisexual is, it's somebody who is um, essentially aroused, sexually aroused by emotional connection. You need emotional connection in sex in order for it to be sustaining and fulfilling. So the emotional availability piece is really, really key. Um, so how do I assess for that one? I'm trying to think like how emotional availability. Date one, it's kind of hard, right? It's kind of hard, but as you get to know somebody, like, you start to recognize capacity. Do they have capacity to talk about their emotions? What's their emotional range? If they have a bad day, like, are they able to express themselves and share emotionally what's coming up? Or if I do something that maybe irks them, are they able to communicate that in a way that's like healthy and they're expressive? These sorts of things. Knowing what they want is a big green flag for me. Somebody who knows what they want. I love a man who's certain, um, understands their needs, understands their fears, their insecurities, like self-awareness, I think is kind of what I'm getting to here. Like um, an inner knowingness. Um, yeah, yeah. Pacing is a big one for me. Like I think when a person is able to pace connection, not rush in, but not be scared, like they're able to kind of, just move at a good pace so we can hit those relationship milestones, like, getting to know somebody, learning to trust, learning to rely, learning to commit. Those are all progressive for me. They're kind of linear. So when somebody's like able to kind of meet me at that same pace where it's like, okay, let's get to know each other and then move on to the next milestone is a huge green flag for me. Curiosity is a big one. When somebody takes an interest in me, I tend to have a very rich inner world. Can be a dynamic and complex person at times. So I need somebody to ask a lot of questions if they want to understand me. They need to have a good sense of curiosity. So that's a really green flag for me. And then lastly, sensual and sexual combo, I think, because sensuality, in my opinion, is just as important as sexuality and like sex. I love getting raw and raunchy with my lover just as much as I love, massaging and tickling and tantric and all the things. So I like there to be like more of a capacity to explore both the yin and the yang of sex, in my opinion. So yeah, I could go on, but I'll save some for you guys.
Yeah, I was gonna say those are all great.
No,
Um,
keep going.
yeah,
So
right.
sexy.
Now's a good time to remind our listeners and viewers that we are all single guys here. So take notes if
This
you're
is
interested.
true.
All right, Reno, how about you? What are some of the green flags you look for and why?
Well, I've got a list, and Matt said a lot of them,
Yeah.
which is fun, and I'm sure you will too, Michael. But I want to start with an experience I had. There was a guy. Well, there is a guy, and we're friends, and I probably mentioned him on the podcast previously, and we had this, we had a conflict, and I think it was probably our first conflict, like the first one we ever had. And I remember I was like misreading the situation because I think he was trying to invite playfulness, but I wasn't experiencing it as like sincere. And I also just wasn't in the space for that. And so we were on the ride back from crabbing, and I was in the back seat, and he asked me if I was joining them for dinner, and I said that I wasn't going to be. And then he asked me again moments later, and I said I wasn't. And he said, "Is everything okay?" And I said, "No, it's not. I don't really like you right now." And he was like, "Oh, okay, what's going on?" And I said, your friends are here, so like, let's just talk about it tomorrow, after you've had time with your friends. And he was like, no, 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 I would like to talk about it now. And I said, it's okay, like, enjoy your time with your friends. And he insisted, and he said, and this rocked my world, he said, you're important to me. Our relationship is important to me. This
Mm.
conversation is important to me. And so let's go for a walk and just take 10 minutes to check in. I want to be connected to you.
Mm.
And that was remarkable. That was remarkable. And I don't know what you call that, like sincerity, emotional intelligence and maturity, responsiveness, like I mean awareness, like there's so much in that, you know, there's so much.
Devotion, even too.
There we go, exactly. And so yeah, I was just so moved by that. And very quickly we just talked. We saw there was a misunderstanding and you know, sort of a disconnect. And we repaired it quickly and had like a really, really beautiful evening together, you know. And I'm
Mm.
so glad that I didn't miss out. And so I think for me, you know, there's so much in that story, I think that I really appreciate. So, you know, green flags. Humor is big for me. Like someone who has a sense of humor. I love laughter. I think it's medicinal and it's just such a significant part of like so many of my relationships, you know. That like my favorite relationships are the ones that yeah, that include just a lot of laughter, you know, but also on my list is depth, right? You know, I'm not big on astrology, but like I'm a water sign and I also love the water. I love to swim. I love the depth, you know, and the wetness. And so for me, someone who's willing to like, you know, to get deep and to explore is a real turn on. And I think with that comes curiosity and willingness. But yeah, it's always so fun to me when I meet someone who's like comfortable with really sort of going deep. Um, and I've been lucky to connect with some people who like really embrace the sort of edginess of that depth, but are like excited and curious. Um, Also, like fun, you know, synonymous with humor. I would say I really appreciate someone who's up for having fun and like a bit of spontaneity. I like planning and stability for sure. Those are important to me. I also just really, really value spontaneity and fun. So someone who's willing to kind of pivot or like, you know, follow like their intuition or mine, you know, if I'm like, hey, you trust me? You open to like trying this or going here? Um, what else do I have here? Care. Yeah, care is a big one. Care is a big one. And I would say I would sort of lump that in with sincerity, like someone who's caring and sincere. Those are really important. And I really pay attention for that too. Like, does this person care for other people? Does this person care for themselves? You know, do they care just in general? Um, and oh, personal hygiene.
Mm.
Personal hygiene. Yeah, I love someone who takes care of themselves. And listen, like I'm all for, you know, like I like a little bush downstairs and a little bush on the face, you know, like it's fine. Stubble, great, right? But like brush your teeth, wash your ass, you know, like take care of yourself. Just like put a little bit of effort into, you know, caring for yourself. I think that for me is super, super important. You know, you have to be like dressed up, dolled up all the time. I'm pretty like low key in moments and then, you know, not in others. But yeah, just like personal hygiene, big. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's it. Oh, last one. It's not really a green flag necessarily, but I'm really hot for guys who are like um kind of into like I like intellectual types.
Mm.
Like someone who's just really knowledgeable in like their craft or like their area expertise, or just someone who's like really smart. There's something about like a smart witty guy that's so sexy.
Mm.
Yeah.
I agree with all these. where are these men? Come forth, men.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Reveal yourselves.
totally.
All right, those are all very good, and I second all of that. Both what Reno and Matt said. I mean, yeah, like it's everything of the opposite of the red flags, right? So last week I talked about, people who were flaky. So for me, a green flag would be people who are reliable. And what I've learned in dating this most recent iteration of being single is that things that I thought were common courtesy are not apparently common courtesy anymore. So yeah, this is a problem in society, I would say. And it really drives me crazy. So things like, texting back within reason. And if you're busy, just say so. Hey, I'm at work right now. I'll text you later. Or hey, like I can't get back to you. Not like just say it. And then again, just doing what you say you're gonna do. I've been seeing a guy for a few months now over the summer, and our first date, he that was like a huge green flag. Like we had planned it like a few days before, and we had kind of had this plan, and then he was gonna go pick up pizza and come over. And I bet you he's listening to this right now. Anyway, he's gonna go pick up pizza and come over at a certain time, and we're gonna watch Rue and have a bottle of wine, whatever. So the day of, like we hadn't talked that day because I was busy. I was recording with you guys and just was a whole bunch of stuff happening. And then the time came, it was like an hour or two. And he messages me and like, by the way, this is the pizza I got. I'll be there, at the time, just to confirm the plan. Like not to ask me the question, but just to say, I'll be there at this time. It wasn't a question. It was like, I'll be there as we discussed. And this is the kind of pizza I'm getting. If you want something else, let me know. And I was like, oh my God, bless. Like that was a huge green flag for me. And lo and behold, he showed up right on time. So again, why is this important to me though? Because in my mind, when I'm dating someone, I'm kind of sussing them out for like long-term potential, right? And so if we're going to be together in the long term, if we're going to build a life together, because girl, I'm 41 years old, like let's get this going. I need to be able to rely on you, right? And that integrity is really important to me. And that also builds trust. When you consistently do what you say you're going to do, even if it's something small, like pick up pizza at a certain time, that builds trust over time. And that is so attractive to me. Like I don't have to worry about whether I can rely on this person or not. So reliability is really important. Similar to what you guys had said, is you just being communicative. A big red flag for me would be like someone who ghosts, stonewalls, doesn't say how he feels when there's conflict. He kind of pulls away, which is so what I used to do. I get it. I get it. I used to be that guy for sure. But now I'm like that's a red flag for me. So therefore, a green flag would be someone like Reno's guy, who in that moment where there's like a little bit of I don't know if you want to call it conflict, but something's up. He just addresses it right away in a very mature, kind, respectful, beautiful way. Like that's where Reno was great. Like whoever that man is, give him a prize. We need more like him. Yes. So yeah, like expressive, use your words. I don't want to have to pull things out of you. I don't want to have to guess. I shouldn't have to guess how you're feeling or what you need or what you want. You should be able to say it. And going back to that integrity, say what you mean and mean what you say. Don't be afraid to speak your mind. Don't be afraid to have an opinion, but you can do so in a way that is mature and kind and respectful, right? Also, going back to communication, like communicating your vulnerability, that's really attractive as well, similar to what Matt had said. So that's super nice when someone's like, here's how I'm feeling. Here's what's coming up for me. I'm feeling a bit insecure about this, or I'm not so sure about this, or I'm afraid, right? Like hearing that is such a turn on for me and such a green flag because A, it shows me he knows his emotions, and B, he's not afraid to share them. And that is a very attractive trait. Um, yeah, and then finally, one that I've just added to my green flag list. I don't know what it's called, but there's a story behind it. Maybe you guys can help me find the word. So I was with this guy that I was just telling you about, and we were going on another date somewhere, and we had plans to go out for dinner. It was Friday again. It was another Friday night. We have a Friday tradition. And it was another Friday night, and we were going somewhere. And as we were walking there, the restaurant was closed or something happened, and like our plans just got screwed up because I had made this wonderful plan. And in the last minute, our plan screwed up. And so I went into like overdrive mode, like, oh my God, just like panic, right? And what I call this is revving. I rev, like I spiral, and I just start going really fast and talking really fast and blah, 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 just trying to figure everything out really fast, really anxious. And we're walking down the street, and he just like stops He's like, stop, breathe. And I'm like, I don't want to breathe. I don't have to breathe. Like, we got to figure this out. And he just made me, he just stopped. He's like, I'm not moving with you. I'm not going forward with this until you breathe. Like, breathe with me. And he like held me and he just said, breathe with me. And it was so funny because this is exactly what I would do if I was in his shoes. But when I'm the one in that moment, I'm like, I don't want to fucking breathe. I was so, I was just so attached to being, upset or in my whatever, anxious or whatever I was. So he just hugged me and told me to stop and breathe. And then he was laughing at me, right? He was laughing at me doing this. He wasn't upset with me. He was just laughing. He was like, you're being ridiculous. Like, there's nothing has gone wrong here. So I was, of course, like, that's when I realized in my head, I'm like, Michael, he's right. Like, you're being ridiculous. Nothing has gone wrong. We're gonna have a great night. Doesn't matter where we go for dinner. Plans don't matter. I'm with him, but whatever. So I don't know what quality that is, but that was for me a green flag. And I was like, this man just totally diffused me and
Mm.
calmed me and like was peaceful. And he brought this soothing energy. And it was just the interruption I needed. What would you guys call that?
Responsiveness?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I
And
was,
like, yeah.
you go,
No,
Reno.
please, yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think because I'm relating, and that's very Gemini.
Yeah.
Like we when our wheel starts spinning, it's really hard to slow it down. And I'm so convinced that like air signs need earth or water signs.
Yeah.
Like because if we're with other airs in a relationship, it becomes like too much of the wheel spinning. But what it came through is patience.
Mm.
Like
Oh,
he slowed things down. Like he was patient with the moment and was able to draw you back into the present moment. And that's like a red flag I bring into dating is impatience. Like I'm not a very patient person because speed, speed, speed. So my work is to slow down.
Yeah,
And
that's it. It's that that's the word. I think of like groundedness, like a grounded energy,
yeah,
which
yeah,
calms me right down. It's kind of complements my sometimes not groundedness.
yeah.
my exes are like, hurry the fuck up,
Yeah,
Reno.
yeah.
I'm too slow.
There's a nice balance in there, right? You can complement
Yeah,
it, right?
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's important for me again, because what I realized in that moment is I do have that tendency, and where other people might have just like said, whoa, here he goes, let's just leave him alone, which, is one thing you can do, sure. And I get it. I get it. You don't want to necessarily interact when I'm in that or revving moment. But he just wasn't afraid and just was like, he laughed at me. He was like, you're being ridiculous. Like, this is not a
Mm,
big deal. And so yeah, I think for me that represents like I have it up on my wall here. I have on my vision board something that says tranquil home. And that word tranquility and peace is so important. So if I'm going to, again, build a life, share a home with somebody, I want my home to be peaceful, no drama, anchoring,
mm,
calming, soothing. And so that in that moment, that's what he represented to me.
mm,
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I
mm.
love the anecdotal stories too, especially for like for us and also for like listeners, because it kind of gives you like an experiential taste of like what, like here's what a green flag looks like in
Yeah.
action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to share impact of your story, Reno, because I was like, when you were sharing it, like made me feel like almost emotional. Like I was like, oh, that's like what I want. Like I want a man that can like envelop. Like that's like he's in his masculine, like he's containing and he's like, let's go for a walk. Like he takes charge of the moment. Like I need that. Like I've never had that. I've never had that ever in my dating world. And so there was a yearning I felt when you shared your story, like a yearning to have that, and also like um, just a happiness for you that you had that experience. And I know for me, like because you used the word rupture, I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah. So like rupture or repair. I think you used repair. And I kind of look at that as like when we were repairing, there has to be a rupture. And I know a pattern I've played out in my relationships, probably very subconscious, is I create rupture to test their capacity for repair. And a lot of guys suck at repair. And then I'm like, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to test people because it's a very, it's just not a good way to go about it. But that's very, very fearful avoidant attachment style, like testing a lot to see if this person can show up for you. And but somebody's ability to repair, I love that. I think it should be tested in, but just in healthy ways to see if the person can show up and contain. Yeah.
Containment. I love that word so much. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
The word
So
Mm,
that comes to mind for me is maturity. Like that is just,
mm,
what I would call a man versus a boy.
yeah,
Yeah, I've
yeah,
dated a lot of boys.
yeah,
Need some
yeah.
men's. All right, guys, let's give our audience a chance to chime in here. So, for our listeners and viewers out there, you've been listening to us spout out all of our green flags. We want to hear from you. So, comment on YouTube. What do you look out for in dating? Okay, what are some of your green flags? Share with us. Now, if you actually want to participate in this discussion with us and other podcast listeners, you can do so. You can join us on the last Thursday of every month in the Gay Men's Brotherhood sharing circles, where you'll have a chance to share your own experiences on the topic of the month, topics that we discuss here on the podcast. We also have our connection circles, which happen on the second Thursday of every month. And they're smaller, more intimate breakout rooms where you can discuss the topics of the podcast with other members of the community. So what we do is we put you in breakout rooms of 3, just like we are here. And you've got about an hour just to talk about what we discussed. So if you're interested in either of these events, please go to www.gaymensbrotherhood.com and check out our events section to RSVP. If you don't have Facebook, don't worry. We can still send you the link as long as you're on our email list. All right, now let's turn the table and reflect on what green flags we bring into dating. All right, Matt.
This was a very dualistic experience for me. My ease of finding my red flags. It wasn't easy sharing them, okay, but it was easy finding them in myself. And then going into red to green flags, I'm noticing like a bit of discomfort in wanting to share them as well, but also like it was a little bit harder for me to find them. And I had to go down memory lane of like, oh, this is how I showed up in this time. So it's just interesting how I um, just my relationship to self-compassion is being highlighted, I think, as I navigate these 2 episodes that we've done. But I just wanted to share that. Green flag. I am extremely self-aware, sometimes even too self-aware. I know myself very well, and I think that is a good thing. I am able to communicate from that place. So communication is very, very strong. I'm a strong communicator. I have easy access to being vulnerable, which allows me to like form bonds and build intimacy with people. Um, so that would probably be one of my greater strengths, I think. I'm a very compassionate person. I value life, I value people, I value health and healing, and I want to see people happy and healthy. And so I've devoted my life to that. And I think anybody that lands me is going to have a very compassionate person with high empathy as well. And with that, usually a green flag in high empathy is that I'm able to attune to people and attune to their needs. So I'm usually very, very good. I think I make my lovers feel very cared for and very understood and seen because I'm able to kind of see even behind the curtain, even if they don't want me to see. I can see behind the curtain always. Um, And then this is like a newer thing for me. I never used to be like, I never used to practice humility as much. But I feel like in the last, well, since Brotherhood started, I've eaten a lot of humble pie. And I think I've gotten to a point now where I'm able to be more balanced between like ego and soul energy. And I think humility has been a big part of what I've been trying to embody. And, uh, and then I thought about you with this next one, time management, Michael. That's something I'm exceptional at. Like I literally will leave my house, I'll drive to wherever I gotta be, and I pull up into the parking spot at the exact time I'm meant to be there. It's like I'm working with some sort of time fairies that are making sure I'm always on time. I'm just very, very good. I'm very organized. And you know that, like working with me, I'm pretty on it. Even through what I've been going through the last, like I'm still been on it. You know what I mean? Like with all the shit mental health stuff I've been dealing with, I've still been able to manage my life and my time and all that sort of stuff. Um, I would say this is a newer one for me, but building knowing before trusting. As you guys know, I've talked about the attachment phases, the knowing, trusting, committing, relying. they move in that order. And I think I've developed this into a green flag of like really getting to know somebody, taking the time, pacing myself, and then building trust from that place. And and honesty. I'm a very honest person. Like I don't sugarcoat anything. I'm very just authentic. I say it as it is, and I've always been like that. So I think, when somebody is in a relationship with me, they're going to get my honest opinion on pretty much everything. And to the point where some people even describe me as opinionated, but hey, at least I have opinions. And then kindness. I look for it in people because I am a kind person. I'm generally a kind person. And and then the last one I put here that I think for me, I look for it in others, but I also am is domestic. I'm a very domestic guy. I like being at home most of the time. I like cooking, cleaning, organizing, nurturing, caring for. Like I'm just like that kind of person. So I think if someone was in a relationship with me, they would feel very um, I created a nice home environment within the relationship, but also environmentally as well. Yeah.
That sounds
Yeah. And I
great.
don't have a story. I feel like I'm storyless today. So I'm just gonna leave it at my lists.
Yeah, that's great. I'm sure there's a bunch of guys out there swooning because that sounded really nice.
Oh, thank you.
It's also really beautiful just to like hear you honor yourself in that way. Like I
Mm,
noticed I felt this like kind of vulnerability in hearing you like share about yourself
mm,
in that way. And I noticed how edgy it can feel to like
yeah,
say good things about yourself. Like it's almost easier to identify the red flags and say them out loud than it is to like, to gas ourselves up and just
totally.
really like highlight what's awesome about us. So
Yeah,
if anyone's feeling that way right now, it's like you're not alone. It's
yeah.
edgy. Yeah.
Yeah, we should give the audience an opportunity in the connection circle to practice that because it was really cool. Like, I'm glad you felt that because it did feel vulnerable, but it also
Yeah.
felt like I stepped into my power a bit around it. Like, yes, these are me. These are the things I've cultivated, and I've done a lot of hard work on myself to get here. So I should be proud and screaming from the rooftops, like, these are the things that make me awesome. So thank you.
That's right.
Yeah,
We have our questions ready for our next sharing circle and connection circle. Perfect.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I want to try something too. Like, maybe once we've all shared, I would love for each of us to like share a green flag we see in the other person or experience
That's
from the other
fun.
person. So
Yeah.
like I'll say yours and what mine for you, Matt, and mine for
Mm.
you, Michael, and then like
Okay.
vice versa. So, okay, so there's a few things here. th- we were looking for a word previously for what we had experienced. Grace is one of my green flags. Grace. I was I had a lover ages ago, and I remember we were navigating some conflict, and I was very responsive throughout the whole situation, like very responsive, very regulated, um, and just very considerate of like what was unfolding. And he said to me very sincerely, like, I want to thank you for how, like, for the grace with which you have embodied, like, throughout this whole situation. And I don't always get that right, but I would say like it's been said many times about me. And so I think that that's definitely a green flag of mine is grace, um, embodying it and bringing it into my relational dynamics. Matt, you said this already. I'm pretty domestic as well. I learned this with my ex. And actually, grace and the domestic aspect of me showed up in that relationship as well. I remember he was going to school, and so he'd be at school all day, and I'd be at home like coaching and that sort of thing. And I would I would wake up in the morning, and just kind of, say goodbye to him. If he came home for lunch, like I would make him lunch. I made us dinners and we would sit like out on the patio for dinner. I did laundry, made the bed, like cleaned our space. I was always really excited to do domestic things, to help make his life easier and to also make him feel loved. And it's interesting because they say like um the ways you give love are often the ways you want to receive it. And what's interesting is that actually like I don't necessarily need my partner to be domestic. Like I'm happy with kind of running the show in that regard. It's so joyous for me, it's so fun for me, and it's a way that I show them that I love them and I care for them. So there's that. Um and then well, sensuality, big one, big one. Sensuality is definitely a green flag. Um, yeah, it shows up in so many different ways too. Like, if you come into my space, like if we're on a date, let's say, or like even with friends, even with my friends who come over, I like candles. I put on music. Sometimes there's those like scenic YouTube videos with the music. I'll put that on to like the fireplace or whatever. Um, I, there's like scents and there's tastes and there's sounds and there's, smell. Like it's being with me is definitely like a sensory, sensual experience, especially if I get you in the bedroom. Then you're in real trouble. So yeah, like very, very sensual, very sensual. Um, and then I would say I've done the work, and continue to do the work. Like I prioritize the work. I prioritize growth and becoming a better person. And you can see that. You can see that in in my life, in my day to day, what I'm watching, what I'm listening to, what I'm up to, the conversations, the uncomfortable conversations I'm having. Um, there's so many things that point to, and so many people as well who can confirm this, like a willingness, to live, to show up, to grow, to evolve. I think that's a major green flag. Yeah. And then I'm truthful. That's the last one. Yeah. There's probably lots of others, but
So
yeah.
many.
I'll tell you what's up.
I've never been more attracted to either of you.
Oh wow. Why thank
After Matt's
you.
green flags, like, ooh, swoon and Reno, man, that sounds great. I love all of those. Yeah. Yeah, that's hot. Okay, let me catch my breath. Whew.
Lay it
And,
on
and for
us,
the
Michael.
record, when you said you were 41, I got so turned on, by the way. I'm just throwing that out there. I was like, I did not know you were 41. That's hot.
Really? You didn't know how
No,
old I
I
was this
I
whole
don't
time?
think so for some reason. But when you
How old are
said it,
you,
I was like,
Reno?
I'm I'm 36. I turned 37 in like a few weeks, I think,
Yeah, that's
actually.
right.
Yeah.
Scorpio season's coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the old daddy of the bunch.
You're a hottie.
All right, well, on that note, yeah, I guess a green flag for those of you who like older men if you're younger, or younger men if you're older. I'm not opposed to either. So what you would find, I guess, with me as a green flag, and yeah, as I was thinking about this is a hard one because like what I think is for someone is a green flag, that might be a red flag for somebody else, right? So I think for me, the thing is what you see is what you get.
Mm.
There's not a lot of pretense. Now, also, there's a lot of sides of me. So you can't really put me in a box. You think you got me, and then you're like, what? Who is this one now? Right. And I'm going to put that as a green flag as well. And I've heard this from people who have dated with me, which is like, in a good way, there's so much to me. Like, it is a never ending journey of like surprise and fun. And I like to call that adaptable. So let's put this in the positive spin. I like to say I'm adaptable, right? So I'm also very domestic. I'm a homebody. I love to nest. I love to cook. I love to cuddle. I mean, I love to keep my home nice and tidy and cuddle in with my boo and have a nice date night for sure. I mean, that's seen and I'm fine. I'm great. I love it. Then you can also take me out to like your family. You can also bring me with your best friends. You could also bring me to your work party. And I will just, you don't have to worry about me. I got it. Like I can slot into any situation and just adapt around me and have a great time. And we'll have a great time together. And I'm also a great party buddy. You want to go to a sex party, a circuit party, you want to go on vacation with me? Great. I'll dance the night away. We'll have a great time. We'll party, we'll have lots of adventures. And they're all truly me. Like that's all I can do all of it. So
Mm.
I would say that's a green flag. For some people, that's maybe too much to handle. For the right person, it's a green flag. Um, and then going back to what you guys had talked about, communication, I just want to second that as well. Like, I like to think I'm a great communicator as well. It's that Gemini energy. And again, having done the work, um, I wasn't always this way, that's for sure. But I will say in my last few relationships and dating, I was the first to say I love you, the first to apologize, the first to say I was wrong. No problem. I have no problem apologizing, saying I was wrong, saying I'm sorry, being vulnerable. Like that's easy for me. I'm not afraid of having hard conversation. I'm not afraid of any of that like communication. I will in fact lead it. I think it's just because it's the nature of my job. Just like Matt said, how to understand people, how to have empathy, how to ask the right questions, how to give constructive feedback, how to listen, how to solve problems. That's another thing that my ex told me was that I was his number one fan. Like, was a great motivator and was very encouraging. Like, it's like you're my
Mm.
number one fan, and you always will be. I'm like 100%. I will always be. Like, if I'm really into someone, like I will be your number one fan and like
Mm.
go to bat for you. So yeah, I think
I
that's
love that.
yeah, like a ride or die kind of thing. But yeah, I'd say those ones because those are probably the two biggest ones that maybe are different, I think, than the usual.
Those are so good. Oh
I
my
love
gosh.
that.
I
Yeah.
was like, me too, for like all of them. Adaptability, that one I really connected with because I forgot. That's so good. Yeah, it's so good.
It's
So
that
good.
Gemini energy.
It is Gemini energy. I was gonna say, and if you're a monogamous person but you don't want to get like bored, date a Gemini because you get like 10 characters in one person
Totally.
in the bedroom as well, for the
Yeah.
most part.
Yeah, very true.
Mhm.
So what green flags do we see in each other? Let's do that.
I was energetically tuning into your guys's into you when you were sharing, and the word that came through for Reno was cozy. And
Mm.
even just the way you were talking, the way you're sitting, like you look cozy. And
Yes.
like I remember just like laying on the beach with you in Vancouver, and like I was able to fall asleep beside you, which is like unheard of. So there's like a coziness about your energy that I really, really love.
I'm touched.
And yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. And for Michael, I wrote down sturdy. The word sturdy came through. Like you're sturdy, like you're just like, and I even remember when I first met you. I think I've already shared this before, but I'll share it again. When I first met you, because we didn't meet for almost 3 years before and we had been associating, but I'd never seen your stature and the way you are. Like, and like when we met and we walked up to each other and we hugged. Like I remember feeling like sturdy. There's a sturdiness about your energy. Yeah,
Oh, I love that. Thank you.
yeah,
I'm gonna add that to my
cozy
green
and
flag.
sturdy.
What's that?
We're gonna add that to our green flags, cozy and sturdy.
Yeah.
I like these one words. Karina, what are your one word green flags?
Yeah, I'm okay. So, well, for Matt, like, I don't know how to say this, but like, I trust you.
Mm.
Yeah. I like, yeah, there's just like a lot of trust there. Like I know you'll keep it real. I know you're super loyal to like the people you love
Mm.
and that there's something there, like something very trustworthy, I would
Mm.
say. Yeah, that's a
Mm.
green flag, definitely.
My ears rang when you said the word loyal. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. And I mean, I don't want to steal Matt's, but like it's there are two things for you, Michael, and this one of them might sound really silly, but the first one is like, yeah, there's like a stability about you. There's a
Yeah.
stability about you that I think is just really um yeah, very much a green flag. Very much a green flag. And to the point where it's actually like for me, it's kind of intimidating. I gotta be honest. Like
Mm.
when you speak to your stability and how much you value it, because I'm such a flowy person, it's kind of edgy. I'm like, oh shit, I might mess up your world, you know? I don't know. I don't know. But the other one, and this is kind of maybe a silly green flag, but you're just like sexy, you know? Like
Mm.
you just exude sexiness. It's great.
Mm.
Thank you. And that's so funny because that's what I was going to say for yours.
Sexy.
That's good.
Sexy, yeah. Like sensual, right? Like I think,
Yeah.
sensuality, I've said it before, like the way you flow, the way you move in the world is just very
Mm.
confident and like slow in a good way that I'm attracted to because as I said, sometimes I get a bit too fast and like,
Mhm.
so much what I was saying about the guy that I'm dating, like I feel like you would slow me down. So that's sensual. It's more of a sensual than a sexy. Like it's just
Mhm.
slower, more sensual energy.
Oh,
Mm.
thank you. That was fun. That was
Yeah. Well, I have
really,
to do
really
Matt
fun.
still.
Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
for Matt, and I want to try to go with one that hasn't been said, which is hard because we've said a lot. But I would say what I was going to say was the like a good communicator, but you already said that. So I
Mm.
want to try to go a little bit deeper than that. And I would say further to the good communicator, um, Matt makes me feel very safe. Like I feel like I can be my authentic self with him, and it's going to be
Mm.
totally okay. Like I'm
Mm.
in good hands. Yeah.
Cool.
So
I
safety.
like that.
Yeah.
Totally. I would almost say like, and I like you almost even like I don't want to say demand it, but there's something about your energy that like it just it like calls it forth, you know? Like
Mm.
you almost have to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a fun little exercise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do it with your friends, folks. It's
Yes.
fun. It feels good.
Yeah, get that
Mhm.
feedback. It's always nice. All right, but enough about us. Let's hear from our audience. So, listen, guys, we are still curious to know what your green flags are. So, bring those into the comments. What green flags do you bring into dating? And, we'll be watching, we'll be seeing, we'll be responding to your comments in YouTube. And if you like these topics of red and green flags, the last two episodes, red and green flags and dating, then you would get a lot of value from our coaching collection, which includes our two full courses, Healing Your Shame and especially Building Better Relationships for this topic. And we also have 45 coaching videos. Specifically, though, if you're really into the green flags, red flags, and dating, we have an entire relationships section within that coaching library. And
Mm.
the relationships category has 23 videos. They're about 20 to 30 minutes each. And some of them include things like attachment styles, emotional intelligence, how to set boundaries, and communication skills. These are all green flags that we just talked about. So if you
Mhm.
feel like you want to brush up on some of these green flags, head over to gaymengoingdeeper.com and check out the coaching collection. Once you're in, you have lifetime access. All right. So for our final question of the day, how do you differentiate between a green flag and someone who just wants to make a good impression? Because there are some sneaky people out there who do a really good job of reeling you in and then they do the bait and switch. And I'm like, what? Who's this now? Right? So, how do we determine, Matt?
This question, this one really got me. This has been my dating world, honestly. It is so agonizing, and I'm just like, why? Why do I? So what shows up is availability, and then as soon as things start to get to a certain point, it's like bait and switch, like they're, and then oh, guess what? I'm avoidant.
Yeah.
I'm like, why another one? Why do I keep attracting avoidant men? I'm doing an episode on that soon. I'm trying to conjure up somebody that wants to have that conversation that also attracts a lot of avoidant people because it's annoying. But yes, people pleasing, this is what I call that. It's like the bait and switch is people pleasing. Like I'm going to, you know, my how do I deal with this? I develop no before I develop trust. pacing, slow down, because someone can only hold up the mask of people pleasing for so long. So I don't commit to somebody before, like I don't put a time on it, but it's usually around a 3-month mark. That's when people, the honeymoon phase is over, people can't hold it together anymore. Their authentic self has to be revealed. And this is why like a green flag for me is somebody that can be vulnerable and reveal themselves like right away. Like let's just show each other who we are. So yes, how do I differentiate? It's really hard to do. I'm an empath, and it can still even be really hard to do. So for people that aren't empaths, it can I'm sure it's even harder. So time, it just takes time. So I notice people's consistency over time. Are they consistent? I'm always looking for indiscrepancies. Again, the good thing about having a disorganized attachment or fearful avoidant is I am hyper vigilant to discrepancies. I get suspicious of people if they say one thing and they do another. Like, so I see these things very clearly. And it allows me to be like, no, this is not a good person. But there's a shadow side to that too. I sometimes like people, can be like you, Michael, like they can dance in both worlds, right? But I have to be able to say like, are those the two worlds that I feel comfortable with that my partner or my potential partner dancing in, So I don't want to label somebody as a hypocrite right away without kind of doing a bit of, digging and these sorts of things, because I understand versatility is a thing and flexibility is a thing and adaptability and all these things. So yes, time, friends, that's the only way to discern if somebody's presenting authentically or if they're just putting forth a front. Yeah.
Have we done an episode on the relationship attachment model, the no trust, rely, commit?
We haven't done an episode on it specifically, but we've talked about it in secure relationships. We've talked about it in romantic relationships, dating. I've brought up this model, I think, probably 6 or 7 times in episodes, but we could do an episode where we break down what it looks like to know somebody, trust somebody, rely on somebody, and commit to somebody. Like that would be an amazing episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're on a roll of like figuring out our next episode while we're in the one. So
I'm gonna write it down.
write it down.
Hello, baby.
All right, Reno, how about you? How do you differentiate between a green flag?
Yeah, I mean, true to form, it's just such an intuitive
Mhm.
process for me, like I'm really I think what it is I'm tuning into the person and I'm tuning into um the experience and I'm really feeling what's there. And there's and I think Matt's actually, in my experience, like really good at this as well. Um, it, I can feel when someone's incongruent or like out of integrity or they're kind of BSing me. My like BS tracker, it's like it's it's very precise. And I would say that comes from growing up in environments where things weren't always as they seemed and
Mhm.
really having to like become incredibly discerning. So it ended up being a gift because now I can just spot bullshit immediately. And sometimes people don't know that they're doing it or they think that it's what they need to do. And so I'm also really encouraging of people, when I notice that there's maybe like um some incongruence or just some like, whatever, I'll sort of gently guide the conversation and the connection into a more authentic space. Because I'm not interested in you being who you think I want you to be, or who you think you need to be. Like I want to know who you are. And there's one more thing I want to say on that note, which is, over the years, I have evolved in such a way that like I used to be very, and I say this with compassion, I used to be very sort of desperate to be chosen, to be picked. And because I'm adaptable, I would sometimes change myself in a way to be appealing to somebody else. And as time has gone on, what I've realized is that that's not sustainable. And it's also, I'm not interested in fitting myself into some sort of false box, right? To be with someone who isn't actually a match for me. I want you to those of you listening to consider that there might actually be someone who's like the perfect match for you, who loves like all your green flags and some of those red ones that you're working on. And you're just like the perfect fit for each other. Like that person exists, and the more you are, the more inclined they are to find you, and to fit in. So, yeah, keep that in mind as you're out, dating and exploring.
Hmm. Yeah, when you own who you are, you attract who you need. I have that written on
Preach.
my YouTube quote
Yeah.
banner thingy or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Reno, what
Hmm.
you said reminded me of again, this guy that I'm dating. I hope he's listening to this episode. We one of our first dates, like I had already known I was attracted to him, like check for sure, easy. But I was more curious about like, okay, like I kind of wanted to know like all the red flags. Like what you had just said is, love all the green flags and then some of the red ones that you're working on. That's the part that I'm like so curious about when I'm dating someone. I'm like, yeah, okay. Let's get to the stuff that I'm signing up for. That's gonna like the real stuff. Like,
Yes.
tell me what your red flags are. I want to figure that out. Like, what are you insecure about? What are you afraid of? How do you communicate? Like, tell me about your childhood. Like, I was just in such a so curious to get to that stuff. So we even had one of our dates, like a 20 questions kind of thing where I'd answer one and he'd answer one. And they were pretty vulnerable and they got increasingly more personal. And that was probably one of my, like, I was so attracted to him after that. Like, I was already attracted physically. And after we shared that, like, it was so powerful. And I'm like, I want to know this stuff because, again, if I'm signing up for this, I'd rather know it now than ahead of time. And I can work with it, I can deal with it.
Hmm.
Oh, I love that. I love
Me
that
too.
so much. Yeah.
A great date idea for those of you who are into this kind of thing.
That's foreplay for a demisexual, just so
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. So how do I differentiate? So consistency is what I look for. And then the old adage that I love, actions speak louder than words. So consistency, and don't forget a lot of these green flags, like if it's one thing if they show up just with me, but if they start showing up with how I see them interact with their friends or their family, or even just the guy on the phone, or like people walking down the street, if I see that he interacts with me in that way and he interacts with the whole world in that way, then I know that it's not just a charade, it's legit. And so how he shows up in everyday gestures, for me is like, okay, this is a real thing. This is how he actually is. So, going back to reliability, sure, he can show up on time with me, fine. But if I'm also seeing like the way he interacts, like, oh, I'm going to, I don't want to be late for work, or I have to show up for my friend who I told I was going to help him move on this day, like just the way he keeps his commitments, again, not just with me, but with the world. Um, as people will try to put on their best foot forward with you, but then once they go, hang out with their friends or whatever, then they're back to being their old shady self. So
Oh,
I kind of watch that, right? How they talk to their friends, even really important to me. So yeah, that yeah, consistency and watching those actions because they do speak louder than words,
you just brought up like my biggest relationship fear.
which is
Like that. Like that's like a front to me. Like they just show this and then behind my back or to their friends, they're this like dark, shady, hiding shit from me. Like it's just like, oh, yucky.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, even like
Congruency
with
is
their
so
even with their
important.
family or something, like even if you don't get along with your family, that's fine. But like the way you talk about them, the way you talk about other people, for me is I'm watching that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm still I want to say thank you for saying that's foreplay for a demisexual. I want to like I gotta write that down. That's like that is a tweetable moment. It's a tweetable moment. I love that because I was like yes, 100%. Yeah.
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 If you have those 20 questions, Michael, drop them in the show notes so we can all use
Yes,
them.
I
That would be
will.
great.
You know what's the best part about it was he's the one who found them. It wasn't even me. I was like,
Okay,
Amazing.
who is this guy?
you're
This is
right.
hot.
I
This is
know.
hot.
Yeah. You guys both, like you got someone you like some fish on the hook here. Like to keep these guys. They sound good.
Yeah.
Yes. To be determined. We'll see how it goes. Keep
TBD.
Yeah.
watching, keep listening.
Mhm.
We'll let you know how it goes. All right. I want to
I want
thank.
to share one thing
Yeah.
actually. I wasn't going to say it, but I will. Because and this is impact from you, Rena. What you're sharing today is like bringing up stuff for me, which is fantastic. Um, but you said something about, well, I'll just read up what I wrote. I wrote nurturing people out of their shells. Said that I'm
Wow.
really good at like making people feel good to be authentic, but if for some reason in my dating world, I struggle with that. Like I'm really good at holding space and nurturing people out in my counseling, coaching, friendships, even family for the most part. But when it comes to dating, it's like I want a man who can hold his own and do that. I don't want to have to nurture you out of your shell. You know what I mean? And I find like that, so I bring in impatience into dating. And I think what that's doing is it's repelling. So I had an insight today that I'm like, I need to have a balance between maybe I don't need to nurture them out of their shell, but like, can I be a better container for letting them come out as opposed to it being, it's almost like I'm rushing because I want them to reveal themselves sooner so I can feel safe.
Mm.
Maybe that's the epiphany I'm having right now. And it's like, maybe I need to bring more patience
Well,
in.
and I'm also wondering, like, maybe you already do this, but I'm wondering if you, like, nurturing yourself out of your shell
Mhm.
will inspire that containment in that sort of masculine, let's say,
Yeah.
containment. Yeah. But this, I
Yeah.
love what you shared here. It's really good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and continuing to master my pacing because I can tend to be like a here I am, like here's all the things about me, so I have to like learn to just like do it at a pace, which is good because I like a flow exploration in dating. I don't like to devote myself to one person when I'm dating because I find like I want to do that. So if I'm dating a few people, eventually I want to be with a person. I don't want to be non-monogamous, but I feel like I want to I need that time and I need like to have different avenues.
Mm.
Otherwise, I do want to like put all my eggs in that basket really quickly. Yeah. Yeah, it's
Thanks for
interesting.
sharing that.
Lots of insights.
Yeah.
I'm very curious to read all the comments from this episode once it
I
drops.
know.
Mm,
Quite a few.
ditto.
All right, guys. Thank you so much for your vulnerability, your sharing, the off the cuff little conversations we had. It has been really fun.
Mhm.
Thank you to our listeners and viewers for sticking with us through this great episode on green flags. And just a reminder that this podcast and YouTube channel are listener and viewer supported. So if you enjoy what you're listening to and what we're creating here, please do support us by making a donation to the show using the link in the show notes. You could also subscribe to get early access on Apple Podcasts to listen ad-free and gain access to episodes weeks before they are released live to the general public. Your support helps us to continue making content for you and supporting our community. So we thank you so, so much in advance. And we really hope to see you at our next connection circle and sharing circle. Please check out our website, gaymensbrotherhood.com for more info. Bye-bye.